Welcome back to CLI's Legalpreneurs Spotlight Future 50 series. In this series, we're showcasing thought leaders and doers in legal innovation, legal tech and AI all around the world. I'm absolutely delighted today to be joined by Josh Kubicki. Josh is the co-founder and business designer of Bold Duck Studio and the author of Brainiac's generative AI newsletter. And folks, if you haven't caught that newsletter yet, please go along and do that because it really is excellent. Josh has deep experience in the legal ecosystem, most particularly in advising on, leading and delivering legal services done differently. But he's also a passionate techie, designer, educator, writer, entrepreneur, and innovator. I'm just going to say he's the quintessential legalpreneur. It's why we love him and why we want to talk to him today. And he most definitely knows what it takes to make a contemporary legal business work and who it takes to get that done as well. We're going to explore his views on the new players in the legal marketplace and particularly AI experts. And we're going to talk about some other stuff too. Thanks so much for joining me today, Josh, from Cincinnati, Ohio, and a huge welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Terry. I've been an admirer of yours and the center's since its inception. It's just a simple joy to be able to connect with you and talk about what we're about to talk about. So thank you very much for having me.
Absolute pleasure, Josh, and thank you. I wanted to kick off where we tend to kick off these sessions, which is learning a little bit more about you. You have an absolutely fascinating background, and most of it's been in the legal world, so I can't wait to hear all about it. So what brought you to your role at Bold Duck Studio? By the way, love that name. And what do you do?
Yeah, good question. I'll keep it as brief and coherent as possible because you were kind to call it fascinating. So yeah, so let's just start at broad terms. The best way to sort of think about me is I'm an applied researcher in the arena of how humans interact with the business and practice of law. Sounds like a bunch of jargon, but that's really what that is. So how humans interact. So my first job, real job out of law school was in-house at Verizon, a company probably everyone is somewhat familiar with. And to say that I practiced law would be a vast overstatement. I was the most junior person on staff on the in-house team. So I got dispatched into the business units to sort of front run lawyers preparing for public filings, litigation, depositions, doing evidence collection and all that. Because what we learned is that the business people, when a new in-house team or outside counsel were coming, were not the most helpful because they didn't understand what their role was, who the lawyers represent, why they're asking for vast amounts of information. And we tend to overlook that. And at the time, for whatever reason, I just developed a knack to be able to like smooth out the wrinkles and the friction in that process. That led to developing some very rudimentary technology tools for data collection, redefining some processes for how we interacted and communicated with business. At the time, I had no real understanding what that was. So to sort of fast forward through my whole career, I've been constantly in that realm of how do we design our legal services in a way where the human interaction, whether it's lawyer, client, business professional, isn't so cognitively challenging or confusing, and ideally beneficial and seamless. And that led to how do we design businesses? And so I've been fortunate enough to have designed some relatively new models during their times of how to deliver legal services. And then I began to get asked questions. Well, how do we do this over here, Josh? Or could you help here? And that sort of began my entrepreneurial career and my teaching career. I'm also a law professor teaching business in law schools and entrepreneurship. And this whole culmination, as we were talking about before you turned on camera, I've realized a couple of things about myself. And I'm getting to the point. One, I'm a much better entrepreneur than I am an employee. Just the sensibilities of entrepreneurship, the risk, the autonomy. It's not all glory. There's a lot of hardened work that goes into it. I'm much better in that capacity than I am sort of a management or an employee capacity. So that's what led me to help or to build Bold Duck Studio. We needed a boutique studio, design studio in legal. And I wanted to sort of build it in a way that I and my business partner wanted to build it. So that's one reason. The second reason is that I just see a lot of bad, poor practice groups. I see a lot of lawyers suffering mental, physical, business performance, financial, because we unintentionally design our legal businesses. We don't think of them as businesses, and therefore we're not intentional about building them in a valuable way to ourselves as lawyers and to our clients. When we do that, we unlock a lot of other benefits. And that's really been my mission, is how through reframing the practice of law as business can we unlock serious measurable benefits to lawyers, to business professionals and clients. So that sort of sums up, hopefully, my interesting career.
It's what's fascinating about that, more fascinating, I should say, about that, Josh, is that folks often in our industry, in the legal industry, think that the more business-like you become, then basically the less human you become. And what you're just saying here is no, if you design it and re-engineer it or engineer it the right way, it's the exact opposite.
100%. And I think you've just hit the nail on the head. And sort of my mission has been to unpack, to get the attention of people. Business, that term, or business of law, is thrown around in a very obscure, blurry, jargony way. And no one takes the time to really unpack what that is. So I say to people, listen, if I could show you the critical ingredients and levers that any business needs to pull and dial to really create a high-performing business that gets the right type of customer or client, keeps that customer or client for however long you want to, and in that whole process makes you, the provider, feel good and not stressed, like, wouldn't you want that? Well, the answer is yes. So the answer is in the question. Then we need to peel back the layers of what a business is and get intentional about it. People think business means profit and unethical behavior, and it's all about me. Like, unfortunately, because most lawyers don't know how to design a business, that's what happens, right? We have very poor businesses and people trying to manipulate them. And that doesn't have to be the case. So you're 100% right. Thank you for making that point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I want to dive into the AI bit because, talking about business, it's a huge part of any legal business now, and it's going to continue to be even more so. But before we do that and kind of get to, I guess, the crux of our discussion today, I wanted to provide a little context setting. Firstly, I mentioned it in the intro, but I really want to give you a huge shout out for the amazing resources that you've been creating in this space, in the generative AI space for legal in particular. And it's really provided a great opportunity for people to get up to speed, to get educated and support the industry, I think, as it really is embracing and transforming around AI. But I did want to ask you this as well. Why was that important to you? I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Why is that important to you, and why did you do that? And why now, in a way?
Oh, wow. First of all, thank you for the compliment. That means a lot. It does mean a lot to me. Why? Because I'm afflicted with this disease of trying to pull back the veil of obscurity and misunderstanding around what makes the business of law tick. I'll give you an example. I teach law students, and I often will teach first-year lawyers, sometimes even equity partners, the simplest thing, and that is the economic model of private practice law firms. really about the billable hour, but also how law firms make money and distribute profits. Now, you would think something so mundane, so boring would really put people just to sleep. It's exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
Nobody even understands how the dollars flow through a law firm. When I teach that lesson, and I can do it in 15 minutes or 3 hours, I've had the most seasoned, hardened equity partners pull me aside and say, nobody has ever explained it like that. And I was always so confused. Law students light up. They finally start to see the financial reality of what they're going to go into. That's addictive. So for me to see, so when generative AI came along, I was brand new, like a lot of people. And I was like, okay, I immediately saw it as a business tool, not as some shiny object tech. In fact, you don't have to understand the underlying technical complexities of what's going on. You have to understand some, but not all, because it's a business tool. Yeah. It's a business tool. That's how we need to be thinking about. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, here's my opportunity to co-learn with people. I'm going to put myself out there publicly because I want everybody to be unafraid of being ignorant right now, because we were all ignorant together. We were all silly, stupid together on it, and that's okay. So let's go together on a journey. I'm going to commit to publicly learning and publicly sharing, because that fed me that accountability, but also the joy of sharing and getting feedback. And honestly, that's why it was a perfect hack, quite a selfish way, if I'm going to put it selfish, for me to learn, but it was also a very great way to share that and get people really excited and frame it as a business conversation, not a technology conversation.
But what I love, Josh, and picking up on what you said there, is in this work that you're doing, you've made it user-friendly. And, you know, there is the danger of creating yet another exclusivity around generative AI through jargon. And, you know, the legal industry is as guilty of that as any other. But that, you know, there are many things, of course, that I love about it, but that particularly, I want to say, is really amazing. And I can see where you've drawn on threads in your background to do that. But the fact that everybody can use it and pick it up and learn, absolutely amazing. And congrats again on that.
Well, why create something if it alienates people? Why create something if it just reinforces stereotypes or reinforces negative self-image, or it feeds into this narrative that only this select group of self-proclaimed experts really know what's going on? That does nothing good in our industry. So 100%. I'm committed to, as you know, if you read Brainiacs, the pragmatic use. Pragmatic. I don't publish anything that I don't feel has immediate pragmatic use. Yeah. There's no room for theory or platitudes in my stuff. There's enough of that. We'll get to that.
Yes. Love it. Which does actually segue beautifully into your AI expert checklist, by the way. Look, there has been a lot of people professing expertise everywhere in this area. I agree with you. We've all been on a learning journey. I certainly have, and I'm very happy to admit that. I guess there's no shortage of generative AI expertise, so-called, in our industry at the moment, and I'm sure drawing on lots of those threads are the reasons why you created the AI expert checklist. I'm just going to nickname it the mini CV for your next AI presenter. But let me kind of go backwards and go forward. So what was the catalyst for the checklist?
Honestly, it was easy. I just kept on getting emails or DMs in my social channels that were asking, like, how do we choose? My law firm wants this person, or my in-house person wants this type of person. We're trying to learn. We don't know anything. We're trying to figure out what our AI strategy is. We don't know what tool to buy. Like, can you help us sort of figure out who we need to be talking to? And as I just said a few minutes ago, I'm on a co-learning journey. I may be out there on the edge over the vast majority of people, but I'm still learning. So I can definitely add value in certain arenas, but not every arena, right? Yeah. And I think that, and I don't want to detract from anyone out there who wants to call themselves an AI expert. What I want to point out is you're not a horizontal expert across everything AI, because they don't exist.
Yeah.
Even if we talk to Google Deep Mind data scientists and machine learning experts, like those individuals who are really, really deep, both in theory and development and all that, they can't be horizontal. And so that's the risk. And that's sort of what I was like, okay, let me help you think through what problem you're trying to solve. And I'll try to figure out, am I a good fit? Is there another good fit? And then eventually I was like, I just need to scale this like a good content creator. Like, I can't have all these one-off conversations. I mean, I love connecting with people, but I get too many requests and I want to be helpful. So I'm just going to put it all into a checklist guide. And that's really what started this.
Yeah. And I want to get to kind of elements of the checklist, get you to walk us through it a little bit in a second. But I do just want to stay for a second on this question of AI expert. And I'm wondering if what we're saying there is that there may be an AI expert, but with particular specialisms or subcategories versus one AI expert. How would you define that person? Because I'm sure you had a persona or something in mind when you were putting the checklist together.
Yeah, well, I think about, so the way there's just two sort of personas that there's plenty more, but probably the most stark is contrasting me, that talks about the pragmatic use. How do we actually, as lawyers and business professionals in legal services, actually get our fingers on the keyboard and start doing some measurably positive things, not just fanciful things, like things that drive business impact, either in our daily productive lives as humans, as individuals, or organizationally. There, I'm your person, right? That I can talk, I write, I live that, I breathe that every day. If you want to get into how to build a proprietary AI model, right, that inside your organization, and how do you use an API call to get the open AI LLM and your proprietary, and how do you get an airlock system? So no, I'm not your person. Like that there's definite experts out there that should talk to you about that, right? And they're more appropriate than I am. I can sketch out questions to ask, but that's all I can do. And I think it's not, and I want to be careful because people get very upset. Like I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. In fact, I'm helping we'll just call them all the people who want to be AI experts out there, because law firms, in-house counsel, public interest groups, those who want access to speakers or experts, they don't know the right questions to ask you. Exactly. Right. And so it makes you better as the speaker, presenter, expert if your client is more informed and they can sort of help determine their fit with you as well. So I wanted these questions, which are getting them thinking and helping structuring a dialogue between the organization and the people they're talking to about coming in and working with them.
That throws us into the checklist. So walk us through, it's got lots of components. So walk us through, if you like, how it starts and ends, and by all means pull out any bits that you think are particularly important. And folks can find this on the Brainiacs website, right, Josh? So they can go
and LinkedIn.
And LinkedIn,
in my LinkedIn profile. And if you hit my LinkedIn profile, it will be there. I'll pin it there.
Definitely.
And yeah, there's a bunch of questions and topics on here, but there's really three components to it, right? So there's can the person teach or transfer skill to you? And there's a number of categories and questions that go into that. Then does this person actually know how to use these tools, right? And the third one is, what kind of social validations are out there in the marketplace, so you have a bit more confidence that this person can deliver the goods, so to speak. Yeah. So I sort of break that down, and some of the early reactions to this, just to kind of share, you'll see teaching experience. I talk about knowledge sharing pedagogy and unique methodologies. Let's just take those three chunks right there. those are drawn from me being a professor, right?
Sure.
But that doesn't mean your AI expert has to be a professor or a professional educator. What that gets at is they have to at least be able to articulate to you how effective they are at transferring their knowledge to the audience, right? And so, have they done it before? Teaching experience. Pedagogy, for those who don't know a pedagogy, that's a teacher's like formula or recipe for how they create a learning interaction. It's not just content. It goes back to interaction. See, how the student or participant interacts with content and with other students and the facilitator. That secret sauce or formula is a teacher's pedagogy, right? So if you talk about pedagogy and they know what that is, that's great. If not, it's like basically saying, okay, how do you structure your knowledge sharing session? It shows intent on the part of the AI expert that they're devoted to transferring knowledge skills. So they've actually explored how best and effectively to do that. You want that in someone who's coming to talk to you. And then unique methodologies, it's really, have they played with generative AI enough to understand the different types of learning sandboxes they can create for you so that you sort of acquire those things as well. So that's sort of what I'm getting at there. And again, if you look at these, they're very straightforward questions. I know what I just said sounds very sort of in the weeds, but I've tried to be pragmatic in transferring those into questions.
But I think absolutely critical as well, because let's be honest, there are still some folks that are technophobes, and layering in generative AI or AI of any sort has for those folks made all of this seem even more unreachable. So that communication piece that you're speaking about, I would say particularly in this topic, particularly in our industry, in the legal industry, is almost even more important than anything else, right?
I would agree. And I guess the best way, that I would say, and this is probably a little pessimistic and cynical of me, but I've seen it too often. There's a difference between teaching and talking. Yeah. And I see a lot of people doing a lot of talking, not a lot of teaching. And when you talk, it's about you. It's about you, the person talking. It's not about your audience. When you're teaching, it becomes about the audience. And I think just that different mindset gets to kind of what you're talking about. Because when you're teaching, you have to be mindful of the communication. You got to be mindful of the words and your tone and pace, yes, right? Depth and all that. And I know this sounds technical, but if you're hired to transfer knowledge and skill, you should be technical in terms of how you go about teaching people and transferring that. You should be a study of pedagogy and all that. So that's sort of where all of this comes from.
Yeah. Love the checklist. And I guess the last part of this that I'd like to just underscore is what do you want to achieve with it? If folks embrace this and they use it, what's the outcome that you can envisage for this that you want to achieve?
It goes back to my meta goal, which is that people in legal services lead, it sounds so utopian, but it's true, lead better work lives, right? Again, if generative AI isn't a pathway to unlocking a high performing cognitive existence for all of us in legal, which it's designed to do just that, by the way, then we shouldn't be messing with it. And it's why I created a free email course. It's why I created a free newsletter. It's why I create all these sources. Yes, I monetize for all of you out there who want to be like, well, Josh, how do you make money? I monetize all of that free stuff when I am asked to speak. I do a lot of free talks, but I do a lot of paid talks, right? I have a course that I sell that costs money right now. But I do so much free stuff, right? Because I want people to understand the baseline of this, because I truly believe there's nothing but upside in doing that. And if I'm going to participate, I'm a lawyer. I've been in legal services for over 20 years. I've seen a lot of suffering people, a lot of suffering businesses. There's nothing more disheartening than to get up every work and go into a broken profession and a broken industry. You feel it, what you guys are doing in your mission. Lots of people who are going to be watching this knows exactly what I'm talking about. I don't want to wake up and go into a broken system. I want to go into a system that I can fix in my own way. I can't fix all of it, but in my own way and leave a mark. I mean, again, maybe that's selfish. Maybe it comes back to selfishness, but by giving a lot, I don't know. I feel okay with that goal, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I would use the words selfish and you in the same sentence, but I think what you're doing is amazing. I want to go broad again now, if I may, and
Please.
And unfortunately having to move into a wrap up as well. But I think that we spoke at the beginning about us finding our way in generative AI. I think many of us still are. We're still learning, and some are still at the beginning of that journey. And I guess what I wanted to ask you was, if people still find themselves there, where do they need to start to catch up? Because I think it is a catch up now at this particular point. And why do you think it's important for them to do that? Why is it important to catch up right now?
Why is it important to catch up? I want to give a very thoughtful answer. The easy answer is because no one is slowing down to let you on this moving train. Okay. Yeah. But that's easy. The reality is this: we are at a crucial moment in time with this technology. We have access right now, and this access is closing, and I'll tell you how in a second, to the raw front end of this tool. Right now, you can get a free subscription to OpenAI in most countries. It's free. Okay. It is a model that is highly effective. It's ChatGPT. It's not GPT-4, but still a highly effective model. It's free. That's the raw front end of this. What's happening and what's going to be happening rapidly, it's already Google, Microsoft are embedding generative AI into tools we use every day, which sounds great, with the caveat that as they embed, they narrow functionality, they tune these applications to very narrowly defined use cases. And so that raw front end is going to start to disappear. And that raw front end gives every one of you the ability right now to understand this technology and how it operates before the curtain starts to close on it and it's behind proprietary data and services models and all that. You're not going to be able to, when it's in Outlook, you're not going to be able to peel back the generative AI model in Outlook and like play with it as you can with OpenAI right now. So that's really the urgency. Now, I don't think OpenAI is going anywhere soon in the free version or anything like that, but there's other options. And as your organizations start to adopt these tools, it's going to be gone. So that's really what it is. It's about getting access now. What to do? I just told you. Get your fingers on the keyboard of this technology immediately, right? We need to get as many people. I do a free 5-day email course. I don't know where I can put that, but that literally takes you from opening your OpenAI account, you get 5 days, 1 email a day. Every email has a prompt in it. So you get prompting right away. And it sort of teaches you how to interact with these models in an effective way. I don't care if you take my free email course, you pick up some prompts online, just get your hands into this stuff. Don't be afraid of it and start playing with it. That's probably the best advice I can give you.
But please don't put confidential information or anything that's going to breach privacy into it. Please.
And be mindful of your organizational AI use policy. Don't use your organizational credentials or organizational devices. Thank you, Terry.
That's kind of the warning sign on everything, kind of bleeping, isn't it?
Yes.
Josh, what an absolute pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much for your time, and good luck with the AI checklist, but more importantly, good luck with the plethora of other things that you've got going on. And folks, if you haven't jumped into any of these amazing resources, please do, because you definitely won't regret it. Josh, thank you again.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.